So it is on. Prada Cup semi-final number 1, race 1, American Magic, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. There is, I gotta say, electric attention in the air, not just out on the bay, but in the commentary box. We have been waiting for this. The storylines are stunning, and I just got goosebumps, Kenny. I think that says it all.
Well, for sure, this is one of these like Nathan said, one of these windy, cold days. It just kind of feels like a boat breaker. Remember, there's an average wind speed they have to be below to race. So it's a 30-second average. Between 9 minutes and 4 minutes before the start, we can't trigger above that 30-second average of 21 knots. We are below that right now. Right now it'd be a go, but it just feels like a boat breaker day, Shirley.
Kenny, imagine you're American Magic. The last time you sailed in breeze, it didn't end well. I mean, we're nervous in the box here, for sure. It's a big day for them.
Nathan, I've got to ask this question. So, as the highest-ranked semi-finalist, Luna Rossa, they chose the starboard entry. Why?
Well, I guess the starboard entry, you get into the box a little bit later. Remember, it's a small starting box, a small area to operate in, and you know, the later you get in there, the easier it becomes. I'm expecting both boats are going to have to do, you know, a couple of manoeuvres in this pre-start because of the wind strength today, and you know, doing these tight turns in strong breezes is a higher risk. So, you know, they're going to let American Magic get in there first and follow them in and hopefully force an error.
Nathan, when we sailed last, like Shirley said, when we saw...
The sampling period has been completed and this race is on as scheduled.
Race is on. Sorry, we're on. That's good news. Last time we saw American Magic, it was outside, out in the chop. Much flatter water today, so conceivably this should be a little safer, easier sailing for these boats. Is that fair to say?
Okay, guys, let's go up here. Yeah, that's very fair to say, Ken. It's definitely flatter, and particularly up at the top marks. The top marks are right up underneath the land there. It's windy and it's flat, but it's really puffy. So they're not dealing with sea state today, but what they are dealing with is these vicious puffs that are dropping off the land. So, you know, I think teams will be approaching the marks and taking the safer option for the bearaway. But you watch that speedo today, these boats are going to be cracking 50 knots for sure.
Nathan, you've been watching the teams do their practice laps. What's your feel? And just looking at the boats, American Magic set up a bit differently.
Yes, American Magic have got their bat wing main on that tiny main and a very small jib. Luna Rossa's sail area is significantly bigger. Just looking at the boat sailing around, American Magic look way faster in a straight line. I think the real question is, do they have any gremlins? Can they get the boat around quick? But Prada haven't done a whole lot of sailing before this start, and they're getting ready to enter here. So I'll hand it over to you guys. But good race coming up here.
Yeah, digest that 35th birthday cake, buddy. They are flying, both these boats, as we head towards port entry, which will be American Magic. They can come in at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. We're not too far away, but there is pace on for this first semi-final in the Prada Cup. And look at how quickly they are coming into port entry. 2 minutes and 10 seconds are gone, and they're on their way in.
It's going to be fascinating to watch and hear the reaction from American Magic. They just come off the foils right there already. They've had stability problems, Shirley, with that small mainsail, because they're right on the edge of control sometimes, and you take away that sail area in the back of the boat. They seem to have struggled at times with that setup.
Yeah, difficult to manage the boat with that, but Prada taking their time to get in the box. As Nathan said, a very small box, and they're going pretty fast.
You got to say, this is one of those days, and I go back to Jimmy Spittle about a week or so ago when he said, we are racing on the edge, at the end of a race. This feels like it's going to be the edge from the get-go.
Match you what he does, I think.
Okay, he's just eagled back on the port.
Yeah. We do the same, I think. We do the same.
Maybe able to set up for
maneuvering back and forth right now. This is snakes and ladders down into the very bottom edge of the box, trying to get control, trying to get in that position. They put both boards down when they want to go slowly.
beautiful look from our virtual eye you saw just a moment ago of this race score setup. The favoured course.
I think Prada's going to try to lead back here. They're going to try to push American Magic as far as they can and then lead back to the starting line.
It's all about time and distance and judgment.
Stay high here, stay high. Staying high. You're racing on the line, okay?
American Magic is in a very vulnerable spot right now. Very vulnerable. If Prada can stay up on their foils and stay slow, American Magic is in trouble.
20 seconds to race start. Cat and mouse, look at this.
I've got to chop it across here. Go the line.
Okay, full speed, just as in the line, as in the line.
I'm going to go below red, Castro.
Below red.
Copy.
No, change. I'm going above.
Copy.
Luna Rossa is away. It's down and the clock has started on Prada Cup. Semi-final race 1. Luna Rossa with the advantage. And look at the speed they are going as they finally get across the start line. Wow.
Beautiful starting there by Jimmy Spittle. The starboard hand side helmsman squeezed American Magic, slowed them down. They came off the foil, and he picked the exact time when to pull the trigger and go for the line.
Barker has struggled on the time and distance back to the line in each of the starts that they've sailed in so far in that round robin series, and struggled again. They were late. They put themselves in a vulnerable. It's easy for us to say here on the couch, right? But they were late. It really, from a minute out, they looked vulnerable.
25 to boundary. He's tagged here, standing by. Cross it.
Shirley, how much of this do you think is them just getting back on the horse again? You know, we gotta all understand that what they went through 10 days ago was life-threatening. I don't think that's an overstatement to say, right?
There's a lot of that. And you think the confidence you have in the machine as well, they're still building that confidence that it's all going to work. But yeah, I mean, they were in a car crash. They crashed that boat and are still, I'm sure, very much recovering from that.
So we're on the upwind leg. It is an 8-leg race. That's basically 4 laps of stadium course number C. Nathan, on the water, Kenny suggested vulnerability for American Magic. Are you seeing that at this point?
Well, I think what we saw there was the power of the starboard tack entry coming in later, and Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spittle managed to tack themselves into a spot and actually block Dean Barker getting back to the start line there. So that was a little bit of the power, I think, of just being that starboard entry. And what I'm seeing now is it's getting puffy at the top of the course, and American Magic making a little comeback at right now. That boat looks harder to sail with that smaller sail area. And you know, Luna Rossa right next to us here, tacking on the boundary.
My rudder.
Plenty of pressure at the top of the course, that's for sure.
Okay, my trap.
Good to see if American Magic can...
Up on 2 to 1. Looks like riding.
Quick replay of the start and how Luna Rossa got the advantage, because they look good right now, but we're only on leg 1.
Yeah, this was American Magic's tacks over onto starboard here. We called it earlier that Luna Rossa was going to lead them back to the line. And not just lead them back, but they had an overlap. They had that really powerful leeward position. They had an overlap. They could actually prevent American Magic from pulling the trigger. So really kind of a tough spot, Shirley, to be in if you're Dean Barker right there. And sure enough, they couldn't get out of it.
No room to get underneath them. They were fully going fast. Now though, Kenny, look at their top speeds. Great breeze on that right-hand side of the track.
Luna Rossa powering towards the top gate for the first time at just under 38 knots, with the advantage on American Magic in this semi-final number 1 of the Prada Cup. And they just whiz around. In comes American Magic. 18 seconds the difference. But did you see the speed on the downwind at the start of Prada? She was knocking 50 knots.
Big one, boys. Big one.
You got yellow on your bow. Copy that. Full yellow.
We have seen great speed downwind from this boat.
20 seconds.
Happy to go, City. Happy to go. Enjoy.
You haven't seen anything tricky from anybody yet here, Shirley and Steven. Like, they're just feeling out the race course. It's two boats not just against themselves, but against the race course right now, because as Nathan described, this is marginal. You know, this is right on the edge, and when it's that puffy, you go around the weather mark, right, Shirley? You go around the weather mark in a big puff. It could be 24, 25 knots out there. That's full on.
Kenny, they are not holding back. We've seen a top speed from the USA of 50.5 knots. It's like 60 miles an hour. You know, they may have come in with some nerves, but boy, they have gone now.
Look at Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. The foot is firmly on the floor. The hammer is down, Nathan. And we asked the question about what they were like in heavy winds. I think they've answered the question at the moment.
Yeah, still got time.
I think. Not yet.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We all had question marks on how fast Luna Rossa were in the breeze, and right now they don't look slow to me. They are absolutely ripping down this run. We're in the camera cat, and both boats are getting away from us right now. We cannot keep up with them.
Really nice boat there. Pressure here.
On board with Luna Rossa and listening to Shirley. We talk about the speeds, we talk about the excitement. They're coming up on a ley line here. They're going to do a jibe toward the mark, but they seem pretty under control in that boat. Their voice level seems really almost conversational.
And then good breeze on.
We had lots of questions, didn't we, about the communications between these two helmsmen, Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spittle. But today, it's sharper, it's clearer.
Stand by, boys.
Bottom
Turning
gate for the first time. Luna Rossa.
One, turning up. Nice and smooth
in
there.
charge. You heard Jimmy Spittle. Nice and smooth there. The gap at the top gate was 16 seconds. Here comes American Magic. This feels like somewhat of a drag race at the moment between these two boats as American Magic comes around the gate.
They're still not doing anything fancy, right, Stephen? We've seen in the past when the boats are behind, they do anything they can to get away from the other boat, from the competitor, go the opposite direction. They are not doing any of that right now. They're getting around the racetrack. They're feeling themselves out in a boat that has all new systems on board.
8 legs in this race. Remember that. There is a long, long way to go.
You know, I was thinking about that a minute ago, but you know, we were talking about 25-minute races, and we could blow that out of the water at these speeds, couldn't we?
Okay, wait up. The pressure in front. Patience, they're coming up.
Max speed for the Americans, 50.5 knots. Oh my goodness, almost 58 miles an hour, over 58 miles an hour. The Italians not too far behind, Shirley. You know, they had a paltry 1 knot slower. They're not even at 50. My goodness, they got to get their act together.
Kenny Reed, they are not even trying.
Happy to go.
On board American Magic.
Happy to be on starboard.
Copy, standing by. Crossing. Anytime. 2, upward, down.
Kenny, I mean, what are they going to do? I think they just have to wait for their opportunities. They are only just over 300 meters behind. Just wait, execute those maneuvers well, take their chance.
300 meters is essentially a one mistake distance, right, between the two boats. So, listen, it's windy enough, it's puffy enough, it's shifty enough. We've seen from the boats in the back. Luna Rossa was ahead of Ineos in the last race, in that classic race last week, by this amount, and they just came chewing right back into it.
Looks like it's a really good leg at the moment for American Magic, setting on about 43 knots as opposed to just under 39 knots, so they could make a gain here.
BMG's very similar, though. A lot of these boats have slightly higher, slower modes. Slow? I don't know if we could ever say a slower mode. Higher, slower modes, lower, faster modes. It depends on where you are in the wind shift. In this puffy, shifty condition, they might be drag racing through a big right-hand shift right now. You just never know. They're really good at moding, Shirley.
Looks pretty solid top right, though. Still think one of them right.
Okay, transition here in 3. Here, lefty. Okay. Release.
A little trim back up. Got a little light. Just a little bit. Pull the wider line.
Super controlled on that boat, you guys.
Be a little righty on the way back.
This is a differently. Shirley asked this question in the beginning of the show. Were they going to make any differences to their communication? Because we thought we heard it break down the last time they sailed a race, and this sounds like a different boat to me.
Yeah, Louise? Yeah.
Your trap?
Yeah, my trap. Big pressure here.
Big gust on the mark, okay?
Yeah, copy.
Okay, my trap.
Okay. Stand by for a better way, guys.
Just
Better way.
feels on
3,
the edge every time they go around this
1,
mark.
better away.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli around the top gate to complete leg number 3. Looked a little skittery with those gusts up the top end, but they are on their way down the second downwind leg as American Magic set themselves up for the gate rounding.
When their voices go up 8 or 9 levels, talking about a puff, you know it's a big puff.
Bow's coming down here in 4, 3, 2, 1. Bow's coming down.
American Magic around the top gate. The lead is pegged out in favour of Luna Rossa now, 33 seconds. They are flying both these, but what a magnificent sight is American Magic right now.
New high speed of the day, 50.8 knots.
25 to boundary.
You know, the American team have set up with smaller sails. We can all see that. They've got their back wing out, this tiny, tiny jib. Yet, Kenny, they are nailing the pace today.
Nice
here.
Okay, my trippy on these days. You know, this is the one thing that we've been astounded with the style of racing is how shifty the conditions have been and how that has allowed people to get back into the race by just good old-fashioned playing the wind shifts. Yes, you're going 50 knots, but wind shifts still rule the water. If you don't do them right, things can go bad very quickly.
There is something different about Luna Rossa today. I go back to Paul Goodison on American Magic, saying if we can get our start right and not make a mistake, we'll not get past. I'm looking at a Luna Rossa now going, hang on a minute, that applies to this team right now.
Better comms, clearer comms, also better manoeuvring. I mean, when we saw them race before, it seemed a little bit hit and miss, but today it's slick.
Let's go on board Luna Rossa.
All good, boys. All good. Thanks.
Plenty of flame.
I'd love to see their heart rate. It's about 7 right down the bank.
Yeah. Can lay left or we go straight? Yeah, put in the bank at the moment.
Francesco Bruni, co-helmsman.
I think a lane left here, guys.
Pressure increasing.
Potential for an early take.
Yes,
or
remember,
JK.
if you need to, you can do the eagle rounding. It's up to you.
JK, yeah, eagle rounding, yes, you will be eagle rounding.
They all have their codes, don't they? Eagle rounding and JK. I think we know what a JK stands for. Eagle rounding, I believe, is another version of sticking both foils in the water, right? They got to get their terminology right.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, rounding the bottom gate to complete leg number 4. Halfway through this first semi-final of the Prada Cup against Patriot and the American Magic campaign. Smooth as silk today.
Yeah, they kept those 2 boards down quite long that time. Actually, it was interesting, a very interesting movement. Like they didn't want to tack quite right away because the other boat might have been in kind of their peripheral vision.
And American Magic around the bottom gate to complete the halfway stage of the semi-final, and the gap has not changed, still 33 seconds. So if we go on the water with Nathan Elleridge, is there any way you can see American Magic? I know we're only halfway through of dragging in Luna Rossa, Nathan.
Well, to me, it looks like watching American Magic. They're almost just delivering the boat around the track right now. They're not really attacking the race. They're not really putting a huge fight up against Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa are doing a great job of just positioning themselves between their opponent and the mark. But, you know, to me, just from the sidelines here, watching American Magic going around, it's really a race with themselves and the boat at the moment. And who knows if they've got any issues. But right now, Rossa aren't giving them any chances in this race. Once again, we see them just tacking to protect their lead. It's puffy out here, so there's always an opportunity, but, you know, Luna Rossa are not really giving them any sniff at it at the moment.
Good mode. Coming up a little bit.
Okay.
Pressing.
Okay.
I think we're going to see a transition, guys, I think we're going to see a transition of American Magic just getting comfortable again. We all have to understand the trauma and drama, but trauma of that situation they were in last week. You can talk the talk. It's easy to say, yeah, you know, we're bigger than this. We're mentally bigger than this. But the fact is, I agree with Nathan 100%. They're feeling out the race course right now. They're not doing anything crazy. They're getting themselves around, and they'll keep getting better by the minute, certainly by the race, but I think by the minute. We'll see more aggressive maneuvers out of them as this race goes along.
615 metres and counting, the distance between Luna Rossa and American Magic. I wonder how much chatter there is on board American Magic and what they're thinking about right now as we get to the top of leg 5.
Stephen, I spoke to Paul Goodison. We can see the back of him there. He's controlling that giant mainsail. I spoke to his wife this morning and asked how Paul was, and she said she'd never seen him so driven. So they might be delivering this yacht round in race 1, but they are determined to make today count.
Most encouragingly for whoever the team are watching from their base, it looks good. We haven't seen a gremlin. Touch wood, no gremlins at the moment from American Magic. And that's a really strong sign. 12 days of toil for American Magic to get to this point. It really is a marvel and an enormous team effort. Speaking of teams, it's Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli still in the lead in semi-final number 1 as they complete leg number 5 of 8. They are so smooth today. It was 33 seconds at the bottom gate. Keep your eye on the bottom right and see if that's extended any further or American Magic is staying on pace.
They've stretched it out a little bit here, Shirley. They're just sailing smooth. They put themselves in phase early. They did that quick tack around the bottom gate. They put themselves in phase with American Magic, just putting their foot on the throat right now. They're not letting it off.
Get up in this pressure. Go boys, big push.
Let's see if they can bust their 50.8 record as they round this mark.
American Magic atop, approaching the top gate to complete leg number 5, and it has gone off the pace somewhat. It was 33 seconds after leg 4. It's now just under a minute, 58 seconds. Both are flying. One might say, surely, that Luna Rossa is just playing the better race.
Oh, a big crash there for the American team. Hard in the water. I think something might be wrong with the boat.
Think about attack.
Our apologies for the quick expletive there from helmsman Dean Barker, but you can imagine they've been going so well, and suddenly as they start leg number 6, it's a tough splashdown.
Stephen, it looks like
this is the umpire's boundary penalty, USA.
Slightly here. Run up.
Easy. It's easy. Yep.
So boundary penalty for American Magic. Everything looks okay from how we said, and they're back up and going. So, you know, you go back to what has been said before, maybe they're just feeling this boat out.
Stephen, so hard to sail this kind of boat, knowing that, you know, something might go wrong. How do you push hard?
Back up and falling, and away go American Magic. That's a good sign. That's an encouraging sign for all involved. Remember,
no question.
It's the first of 4 here. There's 7 races in this semi-finals series.
The good news is it's first to 4 in a 7-race series. The bad news is it's only first to 4 in a 7-race series. I mean, this is a quick series.
But the way they're flying at the moment is going to be even quicker, probably the quickest in history, as Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. Bottom gate, complete leg number 6 and start leg number 7. They will have blown this lead up because of the splashdown by American Magic. But the one thing we are seeing that we are probably all going, really? They are smooth, they are calm, they are calculated, and they just are slick today, Shirley.
Stephen, I've been round at the Prada Cup a bit this week, and it's been stressful. I think that phenomenal race we had last weekend against the British team, Ineos, was a wake-up call to them, and there's been a whole host of improvements, most of which I guess we can't see, but it just looks to be working today.
The one thing that they have not been backward and coming forward about is confidence. Every time the Italians have been interviewed, it has all been about confidence. Bruni has always gone on about saying this boat is getting faster. Example A in front of you right now.
More pressure in front.
This is what happened to American Magic. Can he take a closer look?
Went around the mark and just in their bear-off, whether they had a mechanical problem on board or just kind of bailed out of that maneuver, we'll have to find out. But let's not forget that it was a bear-off maneuver that caused their tragedy. Nathan, we saw American Magic go around that mark and kind of bail out of their turn. Did you see anything strange? Were you close by them when that happened?
Well, we were right next to them when it happened, and I was also watching the monitor on board here. I saw them do 53 knots in that bear-away. So, man, that's bloody fast for a bear-away. They were absolutely ripping there. And then I saw them drop the windward board. It looked like maybe they were struggling for a bit of grip or a bit of steerage, and they dropped the windward board. And you know, when boats start going that fast, foils start cavitating and you start losing a bit of control. So potentially that's what happened to them there. But it's nice that they got the recovery underway and are back going around the course. But I think what it shows you is how close to the edge both of these boats are. And that was the first time a boat had turned right at the top mark. It's much windier on the right-hand side of the course than the left. And so they were turning into a lot of pressure in that bear-away.
American Magic around the bottom gate, and they're heading up on leg number 7, well behind Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. Apologies for a couple of loose expletives there, but there is the gap, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. In this type of race, that's pretty much game over for American Magic today. But Rossa, the advantages they will be taking from this, the confidence will be enormous.
53.3 knots around that. Sorry, I can't get rid of that number. First of all, it has to, you know, there's a possibility, Shirley, that's just pure cavitation. That's when the foil doesn't work anymore. That's when nothing works anymore. The faster you go with these foils, the more on edge they are. They have a little zone that they work best in, but 53 knots, I'm not sure anybody was expecting that.
That is close to 62 miles an hour, thereabouts, which is just under 100 kilometers now in this part of the world. That is quick.
Is it right here? Yeah.
3, 2, 1, board down, turning.
Just go Bruni there, swapping sides.
That's right, Bill. Okay, my runner.
Jimmy Spittle now taking the helm.
My trap, yeah. Gonna be going on in 2, 1, pull it on here.
Rossa, Prada, Pirelli about to complete the penultimate leg of this first semi-final in this Prada Cup. They have been on point from the get-go. Were it for one splashdown in the last leg by American Magic, the gap would be a lot closer, but they have been pretty much in charge. And then just when you say they make a slight error, and then they quickly get back up on the foils. But they are on the homeward leg, Luna Rossa.
I think if there's such a thing as taking it easy around that top mark, that's where bad things can happen, as we know. Seemed to me that they kind of tried to take it easy as much as possible.
I think they've more control today. You know, where the rudder's not, you know, letting go on those barroways, they look more confident in each of these maneuvers.
They're coming on starboard, so keep an eye on them.
Pressure increasing here.
Coming down a bit.
You know what is surprising? Jimmy Spiller in front of us, quite quiet. We do know he loves gassing, but he's quite quiet today.
Maybe it was the lecture from the rugby star before the race.
Richie McCaw, two-time World Cup winning captain. Just wanted to throw that one in.
You pointed that out.
We did have to. He's an incredible individual, and as far as high performance goes, guys like Spittle can learn a little bit, as opposed to the other side.
Maybe he said, "Get your act together, Jimmy, or I'm going to break you in half," like most other rugby players.
American Magic, they are the chase boat basically now. They are chasing Luna Rossa home. But you know, when you think about it, we've just seen two moments. Their splashdown, American Magic splashdown, and one mini splashdown. Now, if that had been any closer, we could be talking a different story, such as the fragility, you might say, of sailing these boats.
3, 2,
just such huge credit to the entire team at American Magic for just getting the boat in position to be out there and race right now. The electronics, the hydraulics, they rewired every square inch of that boat. I can't fathom the amount of effort that went into it. So just on behalf of all of us in the sailing community, just so well done to American Magic. Now it's a rebuild on the water, right, Shirley? Now they got to rebuild their heads and their maneuvers and everything else. They haven't been out there in 10 days except for a little bit of time the last couple.
That's good. Nice.
It's Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli approaching the finish of semi-final #1 in the Prada Cup in 2021, and they have basically sailed a flawless race, and here they go across the line. It will be Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with the first point in the semi-final series, and they'll go that one step closer to the Prada Cup final. Why wouldn't their fans be happy about that one? Smooth as silk today for the Italians.
And they will do a two-board round up here.
Very, very, very well done. I mean, find an error, right? Find an error in that one. You'd have to look awful hard to find any sort of error in that race for these guys. Really impressive.
You don't often see Jimmy Spittle with the fist bump. They're pleased. I mean, they've worked so hard this week as well, and a lot of pressure from Italy to deliver.
A lot of pressure for all these teams, but I think for Prada, Shirley, I think they were feeling it. There's no question about it.
Yep. Go where you'd like.
You are seeing American Magic on its final leg of this first semi-final. And the most encouraging sign is that, yes, they've had one splashdown, but that boat is flying. It has recorded the fastest speed of the day, a little over 53. That's right, 53 knots. Calculate that to close to 62 miles an hour, or just under 100 kilometers an hour. But they're stable, they're flying. It is a Herculean effort to get this boat where it is today, and it is only one race of 7. Let us be quite clear here. It's one race.
I know it looks a little loose and we could be critical, but actually this is a celebration. To get this boat round the track in this much breeze after what they went through, it's a massive race for the team.
Well, let's just be a little bit honest here. You and Kenny were slightly nervous ahead of the start of this race because we were privy to see some pictures of them warming up, and it looked a bit skittery.
We found ourselves going And I don't know if you could hear us at home, but there were some nervous moments, right? For all of us, I think for the whole sailing world, all the fans out there, it is one of those cold, nasty, like Nathan said, those dense wind days that just, as a sailor, sometimes it's like, wow, sometimes it just doesn't feel quite right. Well, I'll tell you what, for Prada, it feels and looks really right.
This boat, Kenny, it does look a little loose. It's not quite on rails like Prada. It's just not quite there yet.
You got a feeling that they are well in this game on the back of this performance. They may not have taken race one, but they are crossing the line. And that is a celebration and a victory in itself. American Magic crossed the line to finish semi-final 1 of the Prada Cup. 2 minutes and 43 to the deficit of Rossa Prada Pirelli. But wow, what an exciting race just to watch these magnificent AC-75s in high wind.
And speeds, Stephen, like we've not seen before. You know, you can't really expect these foils to go up to those kind of speeds and not see problems, and that's what we were seeing.
Confirmation of semi-final race number 1, and it's Rossa Prada Pirelli with the 1 point and a 2 minutes and 43-second win over American Magic.
definitely lighter than what we had for the first race today. The current is starting to come in, so the right-hand side of the course has got a lot of current coming in against the wind, so look for it to be really choppy on that side of the course. And both boats have changed jibs. I think Luna Rossa have gone up 1 size, American Magic gone up 2 sizes, so they're setting up for some lighter winds, and looking forward to it.
Hey, Nathan, what do you think about the mainsail size on American Magic right now? We're seeing some wind speeds dipping actually below 15 down into 13, 14 knots. What do you think?
I think if they had their choice and had enough time, they would change that main between races. It's definitely didn't pay off for them in that race. They've tried this batwing main several times with really no success. So, you know, my hunch would be get a bigger mainsail on for this dying breeze, but they didn't have enough time to change it, so they're on the back foot once again.
This is the race committee. So
Nathan, the tide has changed at Northhead. Now, remembering that race with Ben Ainsley and American Magic before, where it was so right-hand dominant, what are you seeing now, and what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes?
Yeah, Shirley, you're spot on there. What we're seeing in the setup out here right now is really much the same as that first race of the round robins when Ben Ainsley was tacking up the right-hand side. It's windier on the right with this current, you know, going into the wind. I think on the left-hand side, it's looking a little bit lighter and patchy. So windward end start and first attacker to the right is probably going to, you know, win out here. And interesting to see how Jimmy Spittle tackles this start. You know, that starboard entry, I think, has the advantage. So let's see how the port entry here, you know, combats that, because getting to that windward end, I think, is going to be critical, and getting across to Northhead where it's funneling down there is a race win, I think, at the moment.
2 minutes and 50 seconds and counting towards start of race number 2 in the semi-finals of the Prada Cup. That boat won the first one. This boat here, American Magic's got work to do, but most importantly, after this rebuild of what they've dubbed Patriot 2.0, they can only get better. And I think this is the key now, Kenny. How much further do you think they push themselves now in race number 2? They need points.
They have to push themselves. They have to somehow get over the stigma of that big crash. They have to, Shirley, because they're running out of time. A windy day that they should, on paper, have had the advantage. Man, oh man, they gotta escape with at least 1 win.
Port entry now for Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Look at the speed they are coming in onto their entry at 47 knots, Julie. That's just magnificent, isn't it?
And beautifully timed. Try doing that in your car. That is not easy.
But what they're doing, Shirley and Stephen, is these teams are starting to really utilize slow speeds in the pre-start. You see both boards going down often on these boats, and that means they're trying to slow them down and not come up to these boundaries quite as quickly. It gives them more options. Here's Spithill going up and away off to the right side of our screen. Strategies are developing by the day, by the minute, and it's fascinating to watch.
Critical, surely, that Dean Barker and American Magic can actually win a start here. Crucial if they want to get on the board.
They must reboot, reset, and just come out, you know, driven and passionate and aggressive in this start.
I still think they struggle with skittishness with this mainsail up. I know they're pushing to use it all the time, but it just has never looked right to me when they have that small main up. A starboard tack, Luna Rossa trying to take control again.
Going behind us, milk it down.
Lefty face.
Turning up, 2, 1, and turning.
Felt like a polite drive-by.
Stephen, this start box is so small. I mean, there's still 30 seconds on the clock, and they have a lot of time to go. American Magic set up high over the ley line. Are they going to come down? Are they going to attack the Italians? Here we go.
If Spithill's on time, he's in a dominant position again. And he sure looks to be on time.
Prada Cup semi-finals, race 2 is a go, and it's a clean start by both these teams. But again, Luna Rossa leads the way.
So disappointing from American Magic. I mean, Dean Barker just didn't engage in the battle, and I think, Kenny, you might be right. Their bolt might be just too difficult to put where they want to put it in that pre-start.
I don't know what to say. I mean, we love him, we respect him, but Dean Barker does not have a good feel for these starts right now.
He knows what to do. He's a great match racer. I just wonder if he doesn't quite have the tools to execute what he needs to do.
Listen on board American Magic and see if we can hear in the tone of their voice what's going on here. We got to try to figure something out. If you're an American Magic fan right now, you got to be figuring something out. Doesn't look like Dean's on board comms are working at this time, but we might get others.
Heading up on the first leg of 8 in this second race of the Prada Cup semi-finals. Luna Rossa with the 1 point already. Remember, it's the first of 4. Nathan, can you make anything out of why American Magic just seem to struggle at that start this time?
Well, I think Luna Rossa put themselves in a perfect spot. Instead of going down and doing that double jibe in the pre-start, they actually went nice and high, jibed back onto starboard, and their time on distance was spot on. So Dean either had to lead them back and be early or follow them back and be late. So we're giving Dean Barker a hard time here right now, but I think it was more, he didn't really have many options because Luna Rossa put themselves in the right spot.
The moment is 1 and in left gate.
Yeah, copy. Easing here. Go. Easing.
Yes,
Okay.
all good, all good.
Luna Rossa here, Stephen, are really happy. We heard Nathan saying how strong that right-hand side was, especially at the top round North Head, and they're just ushering their opponent towards that side. They could not be happier in where they're placed.
Easy leg. Nice.
Hey, Marana.
The Italians tack around onto starboard to go through this first gate, and they immediately say easy lay. The Americans seem to have gone a little bit beyond their lay line. Again, just giving up kind of valuable meters all over the race course right now.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli around the top gate for the first time. Nice and easy, in the words of Francesco Bruni, but not too far behind this time. In race number 2 is American Magic as they approach the gate. 18 seconds was the margin in the first race at this particular point. Gee, it's almost identical. This time 17 seconds, but we are expecting an improvement from American Magic. Let's see what they've got.
What a great leg Luna Rossa had there. I mean, 300-meter lead.
Yeah, not a lot of pressure inside.
Yeah, come here, right this out there. It's a good one, Ed.
Sure, they've gone to school on communication, haven't they? They took some heat. They took some heat in the local press. They took some heat from the sailing world. They took some heat, period, in that last race. There, a lot of people thought they should have won against Ineos in that round-robin series because you kind of felt like the two helmsmen were arguing a little bit, didn't you?
I spoke to Vasco Voscotto, who we saw in the feature this week, and he said there's 60 million people in Italy. 59 million of them have become experts on how to sail a foiling monohull. And interestingly, we've seen a lot of him actually communicating, with the afterguard on board Prada, and I think they have really worked on that this week. Who says what, when? Real precision in the decision making.
Let's go on board Luna Rossa, have a listen and see how they're feeling about this race is rolling right now.
Seconds to the line, guys. 10 seconds. And by 3, 1.
My rudder.
Easy. No lower.
And my trav.
Okay, clear.
Clear.
There's just not much in it, right? I mean, we're usually when we lay out here and we want to listen to the commentary from off the boat, there's a lot of chatter. It's just they're quiet. I guess it's easier when you're winning. There's no question about that.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli storming towards the bottom gate for the first time in this second race in the Prada Cup semi-finals. Coming in at just under 40 knots. Whoa!
Sideways, skidding, hard sideways.
That's racing on the edge.
You could see that skid coming a mile away.
Now, what's that done to the lead, and can American Magic, as they go around this bottom gate, capitalize?
It's so much safer, isn't it, Kenny? With 2 boards down, it just looks a lot more controlled. And what a gain for the American team. Right back in its team.
Just when you think it's safe to get back in the water, right? Holy mackerel.
Nathan, what went down in that rounding by Luna Rossa?
Yeah, it's obviously a massive leeway skid coming into the bottom mark there, but I think what happened was it was a bit soft at one moment as they entered the bottom mark, so the boat unloaded and lifted out of the water. These boats pretty hard to keep on rails, and I'm surprised Luna Rossa seemed to be the only team not doing these 2 boards in the water roundups. You saw American Magic dropping their board to help them go around the mark that time. With just that one board, it's really hard to control the leeway, and if you get the heel wrong at all, you drop down, and you know, a slight change in wind strength can really unsettle you. You see it here once again. Looks like the foil lets go, they jump, but you know, it just shows you how hard they had to sail. But they've dropped a bit of their lead. They've given American Magic a bit of a sniff to get back into this now. See if American Magic can take advantage of that mistake from Luna Rossa.
Stephen, their lured foil was half out of the water. They kind of did a partial fly, you know, they a breach, and boy, oh boy, you lose grip and things can go bad very quickly.
Good pressure here.
So we are on the third leg of 8. That's 4 laps of the stadium course, the preferred course for racing in the Prada Cup. Stadium course where spectator craft can get around. And it's just, when you look at the virtual eye, it really does give you a really good sense of being a stadium and getting that close-up look. It really is magical pictures.
I mean, I've been out there most days, Stephen. It is electric, this race course. It's exactly what Grant Dalton wished for. It was his dream. This fantastic sailing area surrounded by fans. Turquoise water. What more could you want?
Let's try and build here. Go, lads.
Shirley, the weather out here is starting to get... Sorry, Stephen, I just wanted to jump in there. Both boats did 2 really bad tacks on the right-hand boundary. It's starting to get really puffy out here. You know, I think there's a lot more to come in this race. It's starting to get a right-hand shift and breezes coming over North Head, so that right-hand side's looking quite tricky all of a sudden.
We're getting to jump too quickly on the teamwork in Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli when you hear about a bad tack. Let's go on board Luna Rossa.
Pressure here. I have you on ley line here.
Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
I'm not sure who said it, Stephen, but he said, you know, I have you on ley line. They have software. They have a computer which tells them, you know, the geography, where they are on the course. And it seems to me like as each race goes by, they get more and more confidence in that software.
Get the helicopter above the mark. Yes. Do you hear us on the TV? You got to move the helicopter.
He's very on, but don't worry. Good pressure here, guys, from the bearway. Pressing a little bit.
Jimmy Spittle directing from the helm. And our helicopter gets out of the way. He's not happy about that. And there she goes. Heli 2 is away, and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli rounds the top gate and completes leg number 3. Some of us
much in this.
Some of us have been accused of directing from the floor before, as well as they call it this game. But Luna Rossa around the gate.
Not much in it, and the Americans had a good leg. They're not doing anything crazy right now. Obviously, they were in phase. In this shifty condition, Shirley, you can't split for the sake of splitting. You have to split at the right time when you have the right wind shift, or you get doubly that far behind. It's really, you got to be patient.
Be patient, Stephen, and pounce when you get the opportunity. That's the key, and particularly on this race course, at the top end of it, it is right hand favoured. More pressure, tide is all going for you.
American Magic, Dean Barker on the helm, haven't been able to capitalise on that splashdown at the rounding at the bottom gate. They've lost 3 seconds on 25 seconds to margin now as they hit on the downward leg, which is leg number 4 of 8. Let's have a listen to Dean.
Cross in. Yep. Here's it all. Whenever you like. Yeah. More yellow here. 2, 1, more down.
Short shot coming on here, 2. 1, +1.
Go, boys. Nice left shift here.
You see right turn, but it's going to be hard to get in.
The voices of Paul Goodison, Dean Barker,
Agreed.
I believe Andrew Campbell up front. We don't think we have the microphone working with skipper tactician Terry Hutchinson, but you can tell these guys have been working on their comms as well. Shirley, that was also a big, I guess, an understatement to say that the sailing world was reasonably critical of their onboard commentary during that wipeout.
Yeah, and whilst their boat was in the shed, they actually went match racing in conventional keel boats just to get that comms loop, you know, flowing really smoothly, so that, you know, they haven't been idle when the boat was being repaired. They've been fully working on those criticisms, and when we were seriously asking questions about how they were making the calls.
I think we go straight to left gate.
Copy that.
47, so quite neutral.
Yeah.
Eagle breeze, yes. Eagle.
About to complete the halfway stage of race 2 in the semi-finals of the Prada Cup, and it will be Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli around the bottom gate first. They've had their moments already in the early legs of this race, but the rounding is clean. Away they go on leg 5.
Stephen, they were listening to you guys. I think Shirley said at that last gate when they had such a skid, why aren't they putting both boards down? If they think that's a problem, there they did. They went and did it. I don't think they had to do it. They just did it.
We're loving the eagle. That's what they call that maneuver, both boards down at the leeward gate.
And let's be quite blunt here, they were listening to Shirley, right?
That's what I said, not you.
Listening to Shirley. Thank you. American Magic around the bottom gate. They are halfway through their second race. Not the tiniest of roundings, but they're back up and flying. 37 seconds the margin now.
I know I never ask you this, but what was the time differential between, did they gain or did Luna Rossa gain or lose? Oh, there we go. Well, see, I don't like this mainsail. I don't like how the boat responds to the mainsail, and they have been a dominant downwind boat this whole event, and not with this mainsail. They've lost, I think, on every run today. So
Kenny, it was a massive call. I mean, the forecast was for the wind to drop. It's very patchy as well. There's moments where you need power. A massive, massive call to go with this sail choice today.
I will. Look, quite a nice right shift here at the moment. Yeah. Really nice right shift. Working up here.
It's median on him, maybe slightly left.
Yeah, pacing it up and down.
So you're on board American Magic. Let's go on board the boat that's leading by at least 555 meters. That is Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
Well, you can see how shifty it is out there. They're in a big left-hander, and Barker thought they were in a right-hand wind shift.
Good performance. Pressure slightly increasing.
Yeah, increasing. Pressure coming too. One pressure here, Bravi.
Stand by, guys.
Was my English Italian right? Pressure rising crazy, Shirley?
I don't know about the pressure, but they're fast on this upwind. They're gaining all the time. The boat looks like it's on rails. I mean, that's a massive gain in this leg, Stephen.
Looking like one of that right.
Copy. Easy gear.
Jimmy Spittle, one of the helmsmen on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, has been, some might suggest, rather quiet today, but they have, and maybe that simply comes out of the fact that the way they are performing.
Little skid there for a second.
Okay, potential big left here on the red mark.
We saw Spittle
trying to build,
bang a hard left turn. I think they kind of lost. I think they kind of lost their grip for a second. Shirley, maybe if we might be able to pull that back in on a replay. We'll see if we can see what happened. Just as you were saying, he looks really calm. He gave us a whoa.
My rake, my trap.
Kiko, he's down there. Kiko, he's near north here, just so you know, okay? You got time, just to keep an eye on him. Just got to keep a look. Oh, you're on three of his tack.
Yeah.
My trap.
Stand by better way, boys. Keep 5. 3,
Course. 2, 1, clear.
Good pressure.
Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli around gate 5 with a geography lesson from Jimmy Spittle to Francesco Bruni. The two helm on this magnificent, sleek, very smooth boat that's simply called Luna Rossa. And away they go down on leg number 6.
They're talking about that situation, Stephen, very carefully, because you think about it. We're always talking about closing speeds. That is actual closing speeds. When the boat on starboard tack, this boat is coming upwind, and you round and you're on port tack going downwind, you literally have closing speeds of 80 knots. That's almost bow to bow. So they're just doing their own play-by-play to make sure that they don't get themselves in a sticky spot.
American Magic completes a leg number 5 as they get around the top gates.
Okay to come down.
Finally, they get around it.
7.
Let's slow down there for a moment. It's
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The gap certainly has lengthened to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. 37 seconds at gate or leg 4 now. 1 minute and 6 seconds.
Big right shift here. Keep coming, boys.
We're on the same angle on opposite boards at the moment. Just be aware it's real wild.
Big wind shifts, eh, Shirley? That's what Andrew Campbell just told us. They're going the same direction as Luna Rossa right now. And a wipeout at the same time.
Was that a sense of deja vu? Same spot almost.
Exactly the same spot. I mean, Nathan flagged it. It's quite choppy on that right-hand side, looking upwind at the top of the course. It's exactly the same space as they wiped out previously.
Anytime.
The boat just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel like they own it. Like they're not quite. Yeah. It's not as controllable as it has been.
But does this come as any surprise to you?
It's hard to say. You know, they've been talking a great game all week, which they have to do. They've had absolutely fantastic leader. I think Terry has done a great job at just keeping it together with the team. But the boat is skittish. I hate to keep harping on this mainsail, but I think the mainsail loses control, helps them lose control.
3, 2, 1, more down.
So Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli completes leg number 6.
More coming up.
And again,
Slow down.
on rails, as Shirley Robertson has quite succinctly said every time. Rails and around they go. Not a hint of, to use the word we're using a little bit today, skittishness at all on that boat.
Nice left.
They went 2 foils at that lower gate again. You called it.
They're listening.
They're listening to you.
But you know, Kenny, they haven't really been pushed, have they? You know, from the get-go, they've sailed their own race. You know, are we seeing massive improvements from before? Well, it all looks a little bit slicker, but do we really know?
It's a very good point, because we talk about performance of the boat. Are we seeing them dominant because American Magic's not at peak performance? And how much then do we read into this?
I think anybody watching this would say that American Magic looks a little off kilter today. There's no question about it. I don't think that is anything against what they've done as a team and what they're trying to get back done. But they don't have much time here. Down 2-zip. If this continues as it's going, they don't have much time. You better get it together quick, fellas.
Well, it's the first of 4 that will meet Ineos Team UK. The first team with 4 race wins goes into the Prada Cup final. American Magic do not want to be packing up at the end of tomorrow and going down 4-zip to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. So they've got to find something. If this race continues the way we're seeing it, it's going to be a late night.
And they continue to look forward and play the wind shifts.
American Magic about to complete leg number 6, the bottom gate. Both foils down. And around the bottom gate they go. 1 minute and 53 seconds to the disadvantage.
Nathan, this is becoming a real trend going around this leeward gate is both boards down, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. You saw how painful it is if you get it wrong with just the one board down when Luna Rossa went round the first time. But ever since then, both boats have been doing it. And we saw Ineos doing it in the round robin series, and we saw Team New Zealand doing it, you know, back in December as well. I think it's to do with this leeway control. And, you know, if you can control the heel of the boat with both foils, then the trim's less critical. So, you know, big control with both boards in the water. As we approach the top mark here, just a little weather update. It got soft for a couple of laps there, and we saw that the smaller main on American Magic was definitely making the boat quite hard to sail and kind of looked really underpowered. So they might be back in balance, but for sure that, you know, Kenny, I'm 100% with you there. That smaller batwind main's not just smaller, it's also a lot flatter, which is making the boat really twitchy and difficult to sail.
This is the penultimate leg in race 2 of the Prada Cup semi-finals. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli won the first race comfortably, and it looks at this stage they're going to be comfortable again in race 2 and go to a 2-0 lead in the semi-final stage. I remind you again, 4 wins, and you've got time to think about facing Ineos Team UK in the Prada Cup final, which is 1 step away from the big show. That is the match, the America's Cup. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, into the top gate for the final time.
Please, 3 to clear.
Coming, boys. Full stream. Big push.
Stephen, it is windy. The top right-hand side of that course. You know, and picking that right-hand mark, tactically, it's absolutely the right thing to do. But potentially, go around there in a big gust. It's all on.
Well, I'm sure there was one thing that American Magic would like to do round that gate for the final time, to get it right. Again, after the last rounding, which was, you know, again, that poor touchdown on the gust.
You guys, not to harp on the negative here, but American Magic haven't won a race yet in this event, right? Am I missing something?
No, you're right.
But on
the flip side, we could actually say that these will be the first 2 genuine wins by Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
Okay,
guys,
because
stand
the boat didn't
Because of a
finish.
DNF and a capsize of their opponent.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
I mean, we
Can we
don't
line out
yet
this,
know
boys?
the full
Good
story
down.
of what's going on that boat
Definitely line.
right now. But for me, I guess the most disappointing thing is they didn't get
am I
stuck
right?
in at the start. You know, they didn't feel like there wasn't any aggression in it. The saying that we don't know what's going on, what demons, you know, they're fighting, what gremlins are happening in the boat, but something is a bit off.
Yeah, this is a bit of a
Really
pounding
got a
again going on
Pappas
right here. No question about it.
Top gate for the final time for American Magic. Virtual Eye giving us a beautiful spot of the stadium course and the surrounds of this Waitemata Harbour on another wonderful summer's day here in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and away they go. Last leg. Whoa, and again. My goodness, Shirley, is this the same spot?
Something's not right. I mean, the boat's letting go. There's cavitation. You can hear it in Dean Barker's voice as well. It's on the edge. The boat's in control of them.
Same spot almost.
Plenty of wind on that right-hand side.
In the meantime, it's all bella for Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli as they complete this final leg in race number 2 of the Prada Cup semi-finals. This is a huge fillip for this team and this organisation who are pretty much down in the dumps for a long time thinking, why should we be at this point? We should be in the Prada Cup final. Well, they've made a big statement going forward. They are now 2 races away from being in the Prada Cup final. Luna Rossa cross the line, win race 2, go 2-0 up against American Magic.
Nice and easy, boys. Here we go. Plenty of ease. Plenty of ease. Nice one. Solid, boys. Really solid. Good shot. Good shot.
Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Some of the weight must have been lifted off the shoulders of this whole organisation with 2 dominant wins in the first 2 races of the Prada Cup semi-finals.
In a huge way, and they're patting the boat. They're patting the head of the dog, right? When it comes over to snuggle with you. It's just
snuggle.
Yeah, well, that's the 12th crew member. You know that the boat is part of your family. That's you honestly you live and breathe with that boat as if it was the 12th crew member.
You know, you could taste the tension in that camp this week. This today has been a massive relief.
That's nice hit.
This is American Magic on the final leg, but again at the top mark, they have trouble. And was it at the same spot, surely? I've got to ask the question because they seem to get around it, then lost it.
I think it was a grip again, that rudder grip, and if Nathan was near it, maybe he can give us Nathan's good at calling the spray off the rudder. They're just ripping, and all of a sudden just maybe got too high on that foil, Shirley. They might have gotten too high and started, well, cavitation and actual air around the foil itself. Let's see if we can see something. Little heel to windward, which means...
Dig it, go.
Lost the rudder here, Dean Barker, right? Dean Barker lost the rudder here. Seemed to be everything was under control, so they might have still some fundamental issues in trying to control this boat right now.
I think we'll be 2 lanes clear.
So that's what, 3 times at that mark, 3 times today that American Magic have struggled, but that man there on helm, Dean Barker, gave us the explanation of what happened there. They lost the rudder on the final mark after the final mark running. It wasn't going to cost them the race because they were already well in the reverse to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. It is going to be a long night.
Stephen, you know, we were all shocked by the size of the hole from the capsize, but in many ways that was the least of their worries. You know, everything had to be looked at and replaced, you know, all the systems, the electronics, a massive, massive job. And to me, Patriot 2.0 is not the same as the Patriot we saw pre-capsize. This is a tough day for this team.
I love a good story.
Here we go.
I'm not giving up on Patriot after this response. I'm not a sailor, but we know how good these men are on the boat. And Patriot, American Magic, finally crosses the line to complete race number 2 of the Prada Cup semi-finals. 3 minutes and 7 seconds, the advantage to Rossa. It's been a tough day out on the water for American Magic, but we can go right back to race number 1 and say one thing. This has been a celebration of a team that many thought 12 days ago, January 17, they were out of it. They are not out of it.
They're not going to think of it that way, unfortunately. They're going to think of 2 race losses. And like you said, Shirley, this is a group that is going to come back fighting mad tomorrow.
Here is the final result for race number 2 in the Prada Cup semi-finals. Rossa go 2-0 with a 3 minute and 7 second win against Patriot.